guys, and welcome to another episode of the Cooler Biz Lounge podcast. And yes, we are back. We've been away from your screens for what? Three weeks. And as you know, I'm not alone. I'm with my brother and my co-host, Mr. Nick, the man in the white golfer today. How are you?
I didn't know it was white. But here we are. No, I'm good, man. I'm good. How you been?
Man, I could be better. It's difficult to be a small business in South Africa.
Yeah.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very, very tough. So we're just having, one of those seasons, but we'll survive. We'll be okay.
Yeah, we'll survive. I mean, at the end of the day, those are challenges that you have to face eventually, but nothing is written in stone in entrepreneurship. Right? So you just have to have that ability to be agile and deal with them as they come.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you will not have anybody's shoulder to cry on. Definitely not the bank.
Yeah.
But
well, today I've got Dave's shoulder to cry on.
Oh yeah.
We're talking mentorship today, and the importance of mentorship in leadership. Whether you're an entrepreneur or just an ordinary person who just wants to, align a few things in your life, just how much mentorship can do for you. And so even in our state as a struggling small business, today we're gaining a lot from, this giant that sits next to us, Dave Wilson, CEO of National Mentorship Movement. Sir, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Moonani, and thanks, Super. I didn't know you were Nick.
This Nick thing is big, huh?
Hey.
Every other guest that comes in is like... And then, funny enough, when Dave says this, I remember we saw each other in Midrand at Unleash Leadership, whatnot. So we talking, and I'm going in because I just saw somebody who knows me by Nick, right? And I go to Dave, say, Dave, Nick. It's like, we discuss that. No, we are friends on LinkedIn and all of those things. Like, yeah, but you see, so why are you using Nick? Like, and it's very odd for a white person to ask me why am I not using my black name, right? So I'm like, hey, I felt a bit bad. Like, it's fine. It was my parents that gave me that name, so it's fine. Both of them will work. Yeah. Thanks, Dave, for making time, and we really do appreciate you coming through. Look, what we've learned over the years is that, especially in entrepreneurship, is that you are entering a terrain that in your own world you think is going to succeed, but you bring it on board to reality where there's other factors that come to play in the success or the failure thereof. And we find it to be very critical that you have people that you express these ideas to, you express these concerns to, whether spiritually, socially, or business-wise, they need to be aware. And we find that to be quite important to have mentors in every other aspect that you're coming in. And you now having the National Mentorship Movement is something. What inspired that?
First of all, why is mentorship important? And the reason we are so committed to mentorship is all the international research indicates that if you have a mentor, you're twice as likely to succeed. So if you say that it's quite important, I would say it's vital.
It's vital.
So for example, someone who has a mentor who's in business is twice as likely to survive in business longer than 5 years than somebody without a mentor. They're twice as likely to grow their business and employ more people without a mentor. So the reason we are so committed to mentorship is exactly that. We believe there's a whole lot of untapped potential of people who've got the generosity of spirit to offer the skills and the experience they've got. And there are enough people with the courage to be able to move out of their comfort zones under the guidance of somebody with experience to be able to gain and to benefit. So to us, mentorship should be a critical component of just about every phase of life. And we all have mentors. We've all had from our parents, be it our there are school principals or a scout group head or whatever. We just don't realize
Just in label.
that we haven't really recognized it as a mentorship relationship, and therefore maybe not taken full advantage of it and given full value into that relationship.
No, true, and I totally understand. And from the point that you're now speaking about it being vital, when did you start this mentorship, and what led to that? Because I mean, from you transitioning, I recall you were once at Deloitte, once I think a director and so forth, right? And then to move from there to say, okay, I'm now starting something that is really, really impactful for me, as where I see from my lenses, right? Not from the lenses of I need to bring the paycheck at home and all those things, but now, because the journey of mentoring someone, it starts with you having to firstly sell yourself that you do have the capabilities and the information and the skills to take somebody through this journey. Not necessarily somebody coming in and say, Dave, I like you, mentor me. I must have seen something from Dave, right? That said, Dave, you have those capabilities. So for you to move, to transition from that normal work, corporate life, to get to mentorship part, what led to that?
So, as you say, I was a partner of Deloitte for 25 years.
Yes.
I had about 5 careers at Deloitte. I started the SAP practice for Deloitte, the first one in the world, and grew that to about 150 people in about 6 or 7 years. I was the chief operating officer of Deloitte Consulting. So I had a long consulting career, but I was looking for meaning. We have 4 children. We had them in 5 years. No twins. And they all still live in South Africa. So my desire, I've always had a huge passion for the country. I've always been amazed at the potential and how we've always overcome adversity. And every time we've come near to the precipice, we just grab each other by the arm and say, let's hold each other, not fall over the precipice. And I suppose as I came to the end of my career, because I had compulsory retirement in 2016, I was looking for meaning. And in my career, I'd been working at that stage with the Black Management Forum that was in Bonang Mahali's days.
Oh, yes.
And then I was also working in the Jewish community. My wife is Jewish, so my kids are Jewish. And it's a really influential community, successful community. So I was working, and my colleague from the Jewish community, Paul Bacher, decided let's get the 2 communities together. So we've got a bunch of senior black business people like Maurice Khadebe, Sasol, Bonang, we had Sandili Zungu, a bunch of people like that, and a bunch of senior Jewish businessmen. And we had a workshop for a morning. And in that morning, my colleague and co-founder, Paul Bacher, said, I'm running the Jewish Communities Mentorship Program. It works. What if we made that work for the country? And so we got the mandate to create a mentorship movement at scale, to unleash the power of mentorship, to address partially the unemployment problem in the country, and the issue of social cohesion. That social trust, those social contracts which we lack in this country, which mentorship can bring together. So we were given the mandate in 2015. We spent about 18 months really investigating the environment. We must have contacted about 200 or 300 different organizations, big corporates, the governmental agencies in that space, the big NGOs, and worked out a model where we believe we can really unleash mentorship at scale. But the mentorship thing came about, I was looking for purpose and meaning in my life. Paul had something which really worked. The business community said, hey, this could be amazing. And then we got behind it. And we haven't been disappointed. We currently have almost 1,100 volunteer mentors. I think the next biggest community of mentors that I'm aware of is less than 100. So this is by far the biggest single community of mentors. We've provided or facilitated mentorship support to over 1,600 people, entrepreneurs mainly, but students, unemployed youth, even employees. And we've run programs with everybody from Standard Bank, Old Mutual, Sanlam Investment Group, the Tourism Business Council of South Africa, the Printing South Africa, the Technology Innovation Agency, the DNA, you name it. So we've got a number of really proven models, and we can talk a little bit more about what mentorship is for me.
Yes.
But the old school style of mentorship is very much a hierarchical one. So I know everything, you're a bit of an idiot. If I can make you look and feel like me, there you go, you're successful.
Yeah, sure.
Which is completely anti the school of mentorship that we prescribe to. To me, or to us, mentorship is nothing more than a relationship. It's a relationship between two or more people with commonly agreed goals between one another.
Yeah, sure.
And it's for the mutual sharing. The mutual sharing. It's not a one-way street. It's the sharing of knowledge and experience and skills in order to achieve those objectives. And that for us means then that the mentor and the mentee must both be there and get something from it. Because no relationship, be it a marriage or any relationship, works if it's just a drain.
It's a drain,
from one side to the other. And when what I find really interesting in the mentorship programs we've been running is that the more senior the mentors are that we get. We've been talking to the guy who started Spur, for example, the guy who's run major advertising agencies. We've got unbelievable mentors in our program. The more senior they are, the more insecure they are as mentors. They don't. How can I add value to these young smart guys that live in a different world? And the young smart guys in the world are typically lacking in confidence, self-esteem, discipline, resilience, all of those types of things. Now you take these guys and you bring them together. How can you create a relationship of trust between people of so widely different backgrounds? This is not a racial thing. I think about 2/3 of our mentors are black, but they come from different environments, different backgrounds. So how do you break that? Well, you make the mentee aware that this guy is even more insecure than they are. All of a sudden it's, I've got something to learn here. He or she's going to learn something from me as well, which is a big thing. And that's one thing. And the other thing is this guy realizes, in our case, the guy's doing it for nothing. The mentorship is, there's no money, the mentee doesn't pay, the mentor doesn't get paid. All of a sudden it's a respect thing. So if you're my mentor, I'm looking at you saying, doing this for me? For me? Not for you? I'm not going to call you at 2 in the morning and ask you your advice or expect you to know things or ask you to open your entire address book and introduce me to everybody. Because you need to create a relationship of trust, mutual value. And most of our mentors, many of our mentors come back and say they're feeling a bit guilty because they reckon they're getting more from them than
Dave, I'm interested. I mean, you come from a long career, 25 years at Deloitte, 5 careers, and 2 or so years after you retired, you formally now running, National Mentorship Movement.
Also as a volunteer.
As a volunteer as well. But does that mean you also come from a culture or an ecosystem in that 25 years of, trust and mentorship where you have drawn from other leaders? So I'm more interested to find out the type of culture that you come from at Deloitte, the type of person that it has created in you to be able to find this appealing at this age. What's that culture of mentorship that you come from?
I'll answer that 2 ways. The one is Deloitte is by its nature a very teaming organization. It's a collegiate, collaborative organization. It does work with its clients, not to its clients. It prides itself in being respectful, prides itself in listening well, prides itself in co-creating solutions and delivering them. So there is in that, and it's global. I've worked in Deloitte offices and Deloitte programs around the world. I'm always just been astounded. You can walk into an office in Korea, in Germany, in the US, and you can feel there's a common culture. But what really, where maybe, and this is maybe a longer anecdote than you've got time for, but when there was the crash in 2008, we were badly hit as a consulting organization. You can imagine many of our clients were stopping their spend on the big programs. glad to say my programs will never stop because we're always doing vital work.
Yeah,
You're implementing
vital,
SAP for Sasol Oil, they can't stop.
It can't stop, yeah.
But what happened was, when we did our climate survey of staff, we realized that from the top, everybody was motivated. As you went further down the organization, they were less and less motivated, more and more insecure, and we knew we had to do something. So I got hold of an individual called Etzko Skotema. He's a very interesting guy. So he's your quintessential Afrikaans guy. And he looks like he could be farming in the Western Transvaal. And he also happens to be a conscientious objector in the apartheid era. He also happens to be a committed socialist. Most interestingly enough, he's an imam. He's a Sufi imam.
Oh,
in the Islam religion. So he's not your typical Afrikaner in that respect. But he has a philosophy which he calls care and growth. And that is, he was studying why leaders, some people follow their leaders and some don't. And he said that all his research indicated there are only two reasons. People will follow you if they believe that you genuinely care for you, and will follow you if they believe genuinely that you're there to grow them. It's care and growth. Which means it's got to be about the other.
The other party.
And so we formalize it by saying, so in the first, say, 20, 25, 30 years of your life, it's all about me. It's all about a young kid just takes, it's greed. Or a young sort of gives something to get something back, so it's fear. That's all about me. It's either greed or fear. But when you get to, you get married, you have a wife or a husband, you have kids, suddenly it's not me, it's we.
It's we.
It's actually the other.
Them now.
And now that moves your entire focus from greed and fear to being about what we'd say generosity. You get stuff to give, and then it's about courage. You don't have to get anything. You can do what you can call it as you see it fit because you've got everything that you need. So, again, long answer, but what that fundamentally changed my life. It made me realize that it's those two things. Is it greed or fear? Or is it generosity and courage? How do you get people to live in a world of generosity and courage? So I would do the induction of all the people joining Deloitte Consulting. I would drill this into them. I facilitate on a program in Brussels at Deloitte. All these young European guys, they get the same message. And it works in everything you do. In mentorship, it works in sales, it works in service delivery, it works in relationships and communities. So I come sort of steeped in that philosophy that when you get to the stage in your life where you've got beyond having to get in order to survive, that you have a responsibility to give. And as my co-founder Paul Bacher always said, everybody in South Africa should be ashamed if they're not either a mentor or a mentee. Because you're not in a relationship to learn from one another.
But you speak about you're saying the other or the next program, mentorship program that you're aware of, sitting on about 100 mentors, while you guys are sitting on 1,000 mentors. That speaks volume to the amount of work that you're putting into this country specifically. But looking at South Africa, do you really think the concept of mentorship is at an increase or at a decline, whether it could be at a corporate level, just as or at an entrepreneurial level, or just socially? What is the trajectory that you are seeing as someone so heavily involved in it?
There's no doubt there's a huge upward trajectory. I was reading a report on the Parkview police station. And the guy's talking about mentoring his staff. Just about every report you read, people are talking about mentoring, and I think it is a realization. And in some ways, it may be COVID related. Because I think there was a distinct shift in corporate thinking. We were really struggling up until COVID. The month COVID hit, we suddenly were talking to the Department of Tourism or the Tourism Business Council, Standard Bank, later in the year, Sanlam, etc. And it was all a realization, guys, nobody's going to come and rescue us. We've got the talent in this country, we need to do something with it. And we can't neglect our responsibility is beyond, Deloitte talks about purpose beyond profit. And it is, I think, purpose beyond profit. And incidentally, fortunately, COVID made it a lot easier to mentor. Because you don't have to go and find the guy in a coffee shop and pay for the coffee. You can call the guy up and have the conversation. And so I think it's very much on the up. I think the realization is that nobody's going to come and rescue us, but we've got incredible people. I always say, there's nothing ordinary about ordinary South Africans. To survive in this country, you've got to be extraordinary.
You got to be extraordinary. It's a very special country, this one.
So you just link those extraordinary people, those who say have got the generosity to give, and those who've got the courage to receive. It's so easy to be a victim in this country. You can always blame everything. It's apartheid, or I was born in this environment, or it's the West or the East or China or whatever. There's always somebody else. But mentorship forces you to suddenly, hey, maybe it's me, maybe, and that takes courage. And if I take a risk and it fails, I can't blame anybody else. That takes courage. And mentorship is there to help people, to hold them accountable, give it a shot. If it doesn't, to help pick up the pieces, dust you off and help you continue. Like a sports coach, or to re-energize, re-motivate. So I think it's definitely on the up, and I think it's definitely absolutely vital. And I think, as I say, when the president said Tuma Mina, he should have phoned me.
He should have called you. He should have made sure that you're part of the guys that are running this thing.
How many people can your website take? So I want to get everybody in the country to volunteer, either to be mentored or mentored. Are you ready?
That's what that's a solidarity fund. They should have given it to you.
They gave us some. We got startup funding. That was our startup funding. Was a solidarity fund. Unfortunately, once it got to a stage that the investors were looking for their money back, they weren't so keen. But it gave us the start. So Sasol gave us the start. Standard Bank gave us the start. So we had funding. But since then, we have no grant funding. All our programs are funded by the programs by a service we provide. By mobilizing volunteer mentors for the V&A Waterfront, creating a mentor community for the Technology Innovation Agency, mobilizing the alumni at Mancosa to mentor their third-year students, etc. And that's how we earn it. I would love some big funder who'd come and say, look, let's just take care of your baseline cost, your platform cost. Pay the CEO.
Pay the CEO, of course.
But sorry, Nick. Just my last question on this one. With this maturing of the concept of mentorship in the country, it really does speak of an ecosystem that realizes the need or the importance of it in growth and in development of people. But there's also part of the country that, looks down on it, doesn't see the need for it. We just spoke earlier on today that there would be people who would have family even abroad, who would even go as far as saying, don't come home. And where you could have friends abroad, people who were saying, we want to come and explore your country. And, someone would say, don't come to South Africa. What do we do with such people?
I'm fortunate, I've got a lot of friends from overseas. And we get visitors from Sweden, from Israel, from the UK. And when you see our country through the eyes of foreigners, you realize how different and unique we are.
I agree with you 100%.
We had a German friend of mine, so I knew his wife when she was an exchange student in South Africa. And I knew her well. She got married. She's never been come back to South Africa. She came back about 5 years ago, brought her new husband, who had not wanted to come to South Africa. All he had heard was the horror stories. His only experience of Africa, I think, had been Liberia, and it hadn't been a good one. He was literally walking around to people like shop assistants and waiters and saying, "You just don't understand how amazing your country is and how friendly people are." And so, I think there is that unique. We talk about Ubuntu, we talk about, it's real.
It's real.
And we need to bottle that. And unfortunately, our political leadership do not call us to that which binds us together and unites us to the common challenges like the Singaporeans did, or even the Germans and the Japanese did after the Second World War. There's one common national purpose, and everybody in Germany, they worked 7 days a week during the 1950s after the war to rebuild their country. We haven't had that same sense of solidarity. And yet when I speak to any South African, 80% of what we believe in, what we want for our kids and for our lives, is absolutely identical. And the 20% which make us different, by skin color or our gender or our, where we grew up, that's what makes us interesting. It doesn't make us foreign. It should be that thing that really unites us in our diversity. And I think it would be good if we could get to a situation where there's a political, of all political dispensations, come together and say, we're at the edge of the precipice now, guys. We need to pull everybody together, create that common vision and the common purpose. I've never, even on the mentorship program, approached people with a real need where I've been turned down. Because I'm busy, I'll come back next year, or whatever else it is. But people are willing to give. South Africans whinge and moan and whine and gripe. When you ask them, please come and help,
they'll come.
They come.
They'll come.
We're not asking. We're allowing them and encourage them to whinge, whine and gripe instead of saying, come on board. And that's what we do. We give people that opportunity to get some hope by giving some inspiration and some skills to people who don't have it.
And how do you also deal with look, I believe that I'm a firm believer that collaboration is quite important, because there's places where you can go, I can't go, and that's a reality, and vice versa as well. To say, yes, there's places I can go. So now, but one thing we have in common is that we have access to each other. Right? How do we make 100 out of each other? That what your message can reach the place you couldn't reach physically. Right? And how are you finding any challenges in that particular aspect, where you found that a certain organization or individual that is running a mentorship program is probably going astray, but you think that if we collaborated with each other, we would actually we could optimize the opportunity, but you find that there's red tapes now to get to each other. Are you having those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, funny you talk about 100. I have a campaign or a challenge to our business times 100. Because we're very proud that we supported 1,600 people, 1,000 mentors. We want 100,000 mentors. That is actually our objective. Getting there is we had a discussion with Mpini Mbunda from Africa. And how do we get to that times 100? And he said, you have to get organized business behind you, and you have to get government behind you. And that's not easy, because the future of CSI, and I'm very proud to say we are, as you've seen, the CSI Legacy Awards finalists for rising NGOs. We hope to win, but good luck to the others if they win. But that's we need to start getting the future of CSI, in my view, is multi-year. It's systemic, multi-partner, and its legacy. The CSI tends to be quite parochial, quite specific, and quite episodic. So you get support for a year, you're just getting going, and now you've got to find somebody else to help you. And I think it's getting that vision of corporate South Africa to look for those large systemic, multi-partner, multi-year legacy programs are going to make a difference. I mean, many people look back and say the Nedbank Budget Challenge, that's where I got into finance. Or there's so many of these different initiatives. Wouldn't it be amazing if we had people look back 10 years' time and said, our real start in life came from the Old Mutual, Standard Bank, whatever, Discovery mentorship movement, which gave me my start in life. And what's more, I'm now mentoring somebody else because I gained from it. So part of the process is getting people to commit, like on our Mancosa program. The idea is these third-year students in a few years' time, they will mentor on the program. And then the program will grow. So I think we studied you talk about systems thinking. We studied the process of creating a movement. And it starts slowly. And it starts getting direction, but slowly it grows momentum, and then it begins to move exponentially. And I'm hopeful in the next couple of years we get into that exponential movement. But you've got to get enough visionary people way beyond the level of intellect and energy I've got to take control and make this thing happen.
Yeah, no, true. And when you mentioned the CSI part, look, I mean, I think if we are able to get to a point where the same passion that corporate South Africa has for enterprise development, right, could be given to CSI in programs like you guys, right? It would actually make sense for us because, I mean, for a listed company, they are forced to do that ED within that particular budget. You see, mark it up. Yeah. So if we do, if the same emphasis, right? If the same emphasis was pushed for CSI programs like this, as merge it with graduate programs and put them in there, I think maybe at least we won't get that 100,000 buy-in, but I'm sure it will get us to a 20 or 30,000 of more other guys coming on board. Because those programs, yes, you're doing the ones for Mencosa, those third years. Those third years, make an example with Deloitte. A close friend of mine just became director there. I had a coffee with him to celebrate. He was telling me that one of his key KPIs is to they want to know by the end of the year how many people has he mentored in leadership, right? Apart from anything else, right? Because they hired you knowing you can do the business. That's great, but let's challenge you in actually identifying talent within the business, nurturing the talent, and so forth, right? So him being in that space, and then having to partner with Dave, right? To say, Dave, you know what? I have this opportunity. I am not that equipped as a mentor, right? And then, but I would like to journey with you as I have identified 5 people, right? To actually understand that this is what needs to be done in terms of leadership identification and mentorship and so forth and so forth. So I think maybe there's some room to play around on when we involve corporate South Africa in those particular aspects. So I think it's very commendable that internally they have it. But remember, if you have it internally and you already have certain criteria of joining the organization, it remains internally.
Yeah. So interesting, the model we used with the Sanlam Investment Group, and we haven't continued it, I think should be, if not compulsory, it's something every single corporate should want to do. And just as an aside, I was at the American Chamber of Commerce dinner on Thanksgiving dinner on Wednesday, and Imtiaz Suleiman was the speaker, and he said, COVID has definitely changed the attitude of corporate in the CSI space. So he was getting phone calls at midnight from corporate saying, what do you need? Whereas before it would be, okay, we've got a bit of money, we need to give it to you, give me the certificate, gone. Now guys are actively saying, I don't care about the certificate, what do you need? So we can help, actually no, I think it was around the floods, for example, he was getting those calls. So yeah, how do we make it something which is the right thing for everybody to do? I think there is the realization that we need to go and develop the people. But I think there's also the realization that it's not really that difficult. That mentorship is really what decent human beings do with a reasonable value system who have things to offer. And not those angry people who want to turn everybody into the same angry person, but more the reflective people who want to give the real reality faced by everybody and then guide them. And mentorship is Yeah, as I said before, it's not rocket science. It's not some arcane art which gets taught. Needs like a religion to surround it with all the dogma. It really is about decent human beings getting together and understanding that they are there to learn and gain from one another. And South Africans do that every day. That's who we are.
It's a daily routine for all of us.
All we need to do is formalize it a little bit more and make people aware that this is almost their responsibility. As I say, if you're a South African, you've got to have the generosity to mentor somebody or the courage to be mentored and get that message out at a at a really high level.
COVID taught us a lot.
Yeah, so preferably if the president were to get behind and say, when I said to Mamina, I really meant this.
Yeah, maybe in December they'll put him in again, he'll win a game. Maybe he'll say 2-minute 2.0.
Yeah.
Maybe he will win. I'm not endorsing anything.
Tell me, in the 6 years that you've ran National Mentorship Movement, would you say that mentees in particular would start a program and see it through?
Probably between 5 to 25%. It depends on the program. But what always amazes me is that our net promoter score, we always get at least 90% of the people on the program would recommend it to others. And normally of that 80% say they'd strongly recommend it. So where it doesn't work, so let's say, how do we reduce the dropout rate? The first thing is we make sure, we don't screen our mentors. We screen them. They arrive with what they can offer. I mean, how am I to tell you if you think you're a mentor that you can't mentor? Think you can mentor? Sign up. If we can't find you somebody who's got
what you need,
then maybe you shouldn't be a mentor.
Yeah.
Or if we match you and the individual says, actually, I'm not so sure, this is maybe not going to be, there's another control. And then we launch programs typically in a process of creating a relationship of trust. So that in itself creates a barrier to people leaving, because now I'm realizing you're here, you're doing this for me for nothing. And now I need to take this thing seriously. And the launch really is about creating that sense of commitment, what we've always called stickiness, make the relationship stick. And then we keep in contact through surveys and phone calls, how's it going, when did you last meet, etc., etc. So we keep it going as far as we can. The big issue we found, ironically, probably our biggest foe, like on our Mentorship program, is load shedding.
Oh yeah.
The programs are remote. They are regular, once a month. The guys meet. There's Roz talking for an hour, or a quarter of an hour, half an hour on, let's say, theory of change, things, etc. And then the guys meet in their groups. Now, if you can't get on 2 months in a row, maybe you're not going to pitch the third time, or even the second time. No longer feel part of the group, or so
much has changed.
So that really is most of the issue. But to me, if one person gains, we've succeeded. It's the old starfish story on the beach. So I can't throw all the starfish back into the sea, but boy, the ones whom I can get into the sea, I've made a real difference in their lives. But I never really expected more than a 50%. So I'm astounded that we get over 90% of people who recommend the program. So dropouts, because it's not about the program. It's you and me finding one another in a relationship of trust, which I'm having fun in. You made the point earlier. You go to an event, you come away, it was fun. Why was it fun? Because you're engaging at a real heart level with a fellow human being, sharing of yourself, being vulnerable, being willing to learn from others, share your... People feel good about it.
True. And to be very honest, like I said, as a beneficiary of some of the programs that you guys have done, I think one thing that stands out is that it has an element of inclusivity, right? And one thing that the dialogue itself that is there. Most of us we tend to take things for granted. We think just being present, you've done everything. Right? Just being present, throw in the air, you've done everything. Yes, you've done everything on the checkbox, But for you, you feel that when you get in there, I remember I got in there, there was people who were very much well beyond more qualified than me. But we didn't speak from the point of PhDs. We spoke from a point of social impact that we could have, whether within the group we have or outside the group we're dealing in. And when you sit and you are in a room where there's people that are saying, how do we better ourselves for the environment or for the world that we operate in daily? You are bound to find consensus.
Yeah.
Right? When you're not, unless you are sitting and fighting against the textbook, then that's something else. But if you're fighting against your daily habits, then it makes a lot of sense to say, okay, I deal with it this way. And it's great now because you unlike like earlier on, you were mentioning that our grandparents were lucky enough to go through one IR for 30 years, for 40 years, right? Now, when I sit and I look at my daughter, sometimes she comes in, I have to really breathe a bit and say, okay, she's 4 years old, but she's not my 4-year-old when I was 4.
Right, yeah.
Right? She's a different 4-year-old. Right? She's a 4-year-old that has a why.
Yeah.
Why should I? You know, I was like, yes. Like, no, this is not on. Why must I fall asleep? Daddy's still working. You're like, hey, what's this issue? You know? And those things you have to, as much as it's from a family environment, how deep it comes on board is that if I have a mentor, all right, and my mentor is open to speak to addressing my holistic challenges, is to say, okay, Nick, look here, you're about to start your MBA. First things first that's going to suffer is your family.
Yeah.
Right? That time me, I'm in a bubble to say, I'm going to get an MBA, I'm going to be lucrative to be a CEO very soon. Right? There's a first thing that's going to suffer is your family. Get a buy-in from your family first.
Yeah.
Right? Be very honest with them that you're going to be busy. Now, you don't know what busy means because he knows what busy means. You're like, but this thing is easy, man. I was able to get to my honors. I know everything. I've done it and we have been okay. But only then when you get in there, they tell you as they mentor you to say, look here, you may not understand the challenge you're going to have, but you're going to have to take them with you on that journey. Because things will change when they progress. I can't tell you that you're going to spend 16 hours studying, no. But you're going to transform to become somebody else. And they must be ready for it. And those are things that you don't get from a manual that says we do an MBA for 100,000 sign here. You need a mentor. And one thing that I've learned is that you need different mentors in your life. For all your life aspects. You are lucky if you have one that is going to give you everything holistically. But there's got to be one that talks to your academic. Right? There's got to be one that talks to your career, right? To say, okay, because us from our generation, we're quite impatient, but okay, the Gen Z is even more less patient than anything else. We're quite impatient, right? For instance, if you sit now and you say to me, you've been a dealer for 25 plus years, I don't sit and think I'm going to stack in a place for 30 years. Yes, there's no ways, right? That's just something else. So I want immediate gratification. So then I get a mentor who says, no, be patient, learn the trick. But now I've learned how to bypass certain things. You're telling me slow down. So those are some of the challenges when you're a mentor you get to face. But when you're in a group of other mentors, you get to have that interaction.
I like the fact that you're speaking about Minky and how you realize that she's not the 4-year-old that you were.
She's not.
Very different. Look, I can agree. When I spend time with her as well, she poses some questions that I think to myself, oh, really?
I don't know. Where did she come from?
But Dave, I want to find out from you. I mean, your work is mentorship at a formal level. You know, and your partners and the people that give you input to help you achieve this formal business, government organizations, this is all formalized. How important is mentorship at home? And how can you structure it? I mean, you are a parent to 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
He's a parent to his kids. I'm a parent to my kids. How do we create a structure to mentorship at home so that it doesn't become so foreign when it is introduced at Dave's level?
Mm-hmm. I would say very, very carefully.
Because you might come as a dictator.
Yeah. Okay. So now, darling, let me mentor you. It's not going to work very well, but I think the point about mentorship is it is just a relationship. It's a relationship of trust and care. It's care and growth. It's how we're going to grow together. So if you love... so interesting enough, we always about amateur, or say volunteer mentorship, and the word amateur comes from the Latin word amo, I love. So mentorship comes from a place, particularly our school of mentorship, comes from a place of love. So mentorship is something you should be doing anyway, because you're in a relationship with somebody whom you love, whom you trust, who trusts you, and whom you really care for and whom you're looking
to grow. So you don't need a whole program.
You don't need a program. There is nothing mystical. There are no arcane sort of tablets of knowledge or anything else. It just is, as Itzko Skaten would say, if you're genuinely there to care and want somebody to grow, you are mentoring somebody. Just touching on the MBA thing, incidentally, and talking about the first thing they tell you about your family. So I proposed to my wife on Friday. I got married the next Friday. Saturday I started my MBA. Sunday she flew back to Johannesburg, and 3 months later she came. Well, I flew up to Joburg and we drove down. So that's how you survive a 10-month MBA. And 40 years later we're still married. And we have 4 children. So there is that aspect to it.
No. It's a tough one. I'm still trying to balance it. We're still going to have a lot rodeo on that. But I know the person, she's made peace of it. Yeah. But my daughter is still the one that questions it to say, "You working again?" Okay. Like, no. It's very tough. It's very tough. Incidentally on that one, I don't know. I think I need 10 mentors to take me through that.
Dave told me
you probably have them.
You were looking for purpose. In the 6 years that you've done this, have you found this purpose that you...
Absolutely. I mean, it is. I always use the analogy that we did a trip as a family down the Orange River. It was the most amazing family experience. It's 4 nights, 3 nights, I think, on the river, 4 days of canoeing. Wonderful. The guys who run that trip, life is not so wonderful. They have to make sure the supplies are there, the canoes are packed, the safety equipment's out there, make sure everybody gets through safely. They arrive and they set up the fire and the camp and everything else, make sure you fit. We're those guys. We're not the guys who are cruising down the river. So, but every now and then we get to sit around the campfire with the people whom we've taken down the river, and then you realize actually it's made a difference. There's this young woman who I thought she was an Afrikaans woman. Her name was Antoinette Rapizzi. And she turns out to be a young black lady from Soweto, passionate about wine. And her mentor was Rainer Behrens, who was head of the Wine and Tourism Authority. He was also a brand. He was the CEO of TBWA, the big advertising agency. She launched her wine brand last year through her mentor. And she got 88 points on Platter this year for her wine. That's sitting around the campfire saying, wow, what it took to get around and Antoinette together and running the program and how's it going and did you meet and all that sort of stuff. So the purpose comes every now and then when you get to sit around the fire and reflect and realize it's made a difference. I was doing an analysis last night of a bunch of businesses, of entrepreneurs at TIA. And they start at certain stages of their business from a technology readiness, a market readiness, and a business readiness. and seeing how many of them had moved 1, 2, 3, 4 phases in the last 6 months. That's the feeling. It's looking at the results from our Mancosa program. Over 100 people started, 76 ended, 74 sent in a survey. 69 of the 74 responded to the survey, so they would strongly recommend the program. That's sitting around the campfire saying it's worth it. Because I can tell you, 99% of the time you wonder.
You want to go home.
Yeah. Why am I doing this? You talk about your 4-year-old. Ask my 69-year-old wife. Why she's so wife?
But what's that one trait that you've discovered about yourself in these 6 years? A trait which you might even not have discovered in that 25 years. Something which has impacted you personally in your own personal space. You say, you know what, if I hadn't done this, I wouldn't have realized this about myself.
Stubbornness and stupidity. So, if you look at a Springbok rugby forward, and I'm not saying they're stupid, a lot of them are doctors and everything else, but somebody who's prepared to week in, week out, go out and confront the strongest guys in the world for 80 minutes and grind the hell out of them, I sometimes feel you've got to be persevere, stubborn and stupid to be able to do that. And I say, no, nothing against our current South Africa Springboks. They're an amazing team. But literally, I think it's that. You just have to blind yourself to all the, is this ever going to work? Is this worth doing, etc. Because every now and then somebody will contact you and say, do you realize this changed my life? You realize there's a young woman on our printing program called Ayanda, and she had been wanting to start her own brand for years. And she's in a group mentorship program, and the group mentor is a university lecturer, and he said he kept us all accountable. She started her brand. It's called African Muslim. It's a brand with all the right to the symbols of African Muslim. She employs 7 people. A year later, she would never have started her own business. She would always been saying, I should start, I could do, I would do, I'd like to. And then suddenly somebody said, no, you're going to start something. So I think that's what keeps us going. It's that starfish which makes
And can we expect to see some global mentorship programs where you link up people from this country with other people elsewhere in the world?
Well, I think, so interesting you were mentioning sitting on some of our calls. So we have a monthly call, we have various calls, but this particular one's a monthly one with the global organization, Society for Organizational Learning, Peter Sengi's group, Sibusiso knows the guru, and their guys sit with us once a month because they love it.
Yeah, they enjoy it.
Carol, and going back to what we were saying earlier about, you hear all these amazing minds, and geez, I can't keep up. And some of those early calls, I had no idea what they were talking about. It's completely arcane until I realized actually they were learning from us. Because we don't go arcane and complex and academic, we go practical. And every meeting they tell us what they love about these calls is we're talking about things that they're not talking about overseas. They're not addressing the real challenges. They continue to polarize and talk past one another. We as South Africans are getting together, so they are learning from us. And we had a program with Old Mutual this year. We're still hopeful. We were in contact with the head of the Old Mutual in Nigeria, in West Africa. He wants to take what we do to West Africa. And the head of Malawi, of Old Mutual Malawi, said, we've got to do this in East Africa. And when we spoke to Eunice's saying, we've got all these alumni in Kenya and Nigeria. Can't we mobilize them to make them feel closer to UNISA, but also give back into their own communities? So we would love to work with or even take the program to the rest of the continent. But boy, our work is by no means finished here. Times 100. Times 100 is what we definitely need.
Yeah, then at least you can be able to watch it and seeing it from a screen and say, you know what, those are little projects that were sitting in the head, now being expanded somewhere. And there's nothing greater than that, it's having that smile on somebody and changing their aspect and their look. a few episodes ago, we partnered with another close friend of ours who was a guest at some point. Yeah, we did a Twitter space. So he's got a lot of followers in Nigeria and all these other African countries. After doing that space, people started being more even involved in terms of the podcast and all those things. And you see how hungry some of the programs that we have in South Africa that other countries in Africa would love to have, and coming back to the part of thing that we are normally practical people.
Yeah.
We don't let it sit in the head too long. We say, okay, let's do it. He's a boss at that. He comes to me and he tells me, hey, Chief, this is what I do. I will sit and I'll look at it and say, but there's this box that you haven't ticked, this one you haven't ticked. You always say, okay. Tomorrow he's doing it. He's like, hey, Chief, I've done it. I'm like, but those boxes, like, Chief, it will take form as it goes. Like, okay.
I think that's the one uniqueness that we have as a country.
Yeah.
That differs, that makes us different from other countries, and that will always be something that attracts people to us. And I guess that's our strength also. When we go onto the global stage, we need to tap into that strength so that we find relevance and presence there as well.
As an anecdote on that, one of our partners was transferred to Canada, to Chicago.
Yeah.
And he moved to the Chicago office, and he just felt he was being patronized. Guys were coming and asking him questions, and it was like they're trying to make me feel at home. After about 9 months, he realized the reason they were asking the questions is he actually had answers they hadn't got themselves. And they weren't patronizing him. They were fascinated by the things he knew and had experienced.
Yeah.
It's like all the doctors who come and train in South Africa. Why? Because you go to Baragwanath, you get a year's worth of European experience in trauma.
Yeah.
And we have so much which we have to offer. I discovered as a consultant, the most insecure moments of my consulting career, and it happened often, is when you say to a client something which is so obvious that you almost don't think you should mention it as we go somewhere else, and they look at you and say, really? Really? I never thought of it like that. And I think,
gold mine.
Yeah. And it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same on those calls with these foreigners.
Yeah.
We sort of say something tentatively because, it's a bit obvious, and they, oh, no. And so I always say to our mentors as well, the same story. You do not realize how much experience you've got, and particularly in this country, how many other people haven't experienced. So if you do explain things around what seems to you obvious, don't assume it isn't a real gem. It's not that nugget which can turn somebody's life around. And continually, and you don't realize at the time, I was contacted about 3 or 4 years ago by some guys who left Deloitte in 2006, and they had started their own business. I'd even forgotten. We'd supported them for 9 months. I said, we just think, and they gave me a gift and said, just thought you should know that this is the difference you made in our life. I'd totally forgotten. And that's the sort of thing which mentorship can also do. That you don't realize the impact you have. So I remind Rainer frequently about Antoinette and how it's going. And I speak to Antoinette, she says, I bless God every day that Rainer came into my life. And many people are doing this every day because we're all mentors every day. And we forget about it. And as I say, every now and then you go around the campfire and somebody will say, hey, did you know that? And you think, oh, that feels good. But we do it anyway, not expecting ever to get it.
All these things.
Yeah.
And talking about forgetting, we always forgot to do house chores there. So guys, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment. And don't forget to click on that notification button so that you're always notified when we have content available for you. And you can engage with us on all our social media platforms under one handle at CoolerBiz. Yeah. Right. So but before we close, Dave, there's just, we were talking. I want to come back to this bubble thing, right? I feel, I would like to get to a point where I get to an event, whether it's a leadership event or something. When I get there, I always come out feeling guilty that I wish other people were here.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I look at how I got to find out about that, it was from a very small network, right? And he's thinking, if I had to go through 6 or 7 layers to get to that level, it would be so nice if it can be cascaded down to everybody to get that particular point.
Yeah.
You see, because from our end, we want we're doing a top to bottom, right? And then obviously from your end, you're doing the cross verticals, right? Now, for us, what we feel that we still have the mass majority of individuals within the townships and so forth that could actually do great things within their communities.
Yeah.
Take for instance Soweto. Soweto, it's 80% self-sufficient, right? There's people in Soweto that haven't gone to town in 3 years or 4 years, right? That's no different to a person staying up here and staying city. You know, they have everything in there. They have a mall, they have a garage, they have everything, right? So if we have a platform that equips the same small businesses that are making Soweto self-sufficient, taking the learnings from your platform, Maurice's platform, and all the other guys, bringing it in there. Because I know Maurice is doing more for Tembisa's side, right? Because it's Midrand and Tembisa. But having those...
And Orange Farm.
And Orange Farm as well, yes. So you get into that and say, let me also equip small businesses within particular areas, right? That would be so great. You know, I feel that, have you then thought maybe, how do we create partnerships with small mentorship programs? Because sometimes we so focus on growing National Mentorship Movement that we don't understand that sometimes it being big, it's also its limitation as well. Because people are thinking, hey, they're so big, they don't answer our emails right now. They'll answer us later, right? But if you have another satellite of some sort, have you the guys thought of those prospects?
Always, because it isn't about us. Deloitte at one stage had a slogan which we never launched in the market. It's out for glory.
Out for glory.
Just not our own.
Oh.
And that's how we run our organization. It's not about us. It's partially about our partners. So you want Standard Bank or Old Mutual or Nedbank or whatever but fundamentally it's really about those partnerships, those individuals. So the one component of that is, in order to give a professional service, we've adopted a programmatic approach. We have a general program. Anybody can mentor and come sign up to mentor and mentee, and we will do our best. But a program where you've got a specific audience, specific mentees, you need a particular type of mentor, we give more attention to that simply because that's first of all where our funding comes from, but also it's just more easy to manage. So we have a team that looks after our general program, so it's not like we neglect it. So that's one component of it, our programmatic approach. So we had programs so we work with Alex Biz and Alex using Pernod Ricard executives, our mentoring people in Alex. We had a program in Kliptown working with Kulisa Social Solutions, and we had a program in Diepsloot also in Tembisa with them. So it's partially a function of our model, but also fundamentally it is about the funding.
The funding.
If we had, let's say, 10 million rand a year, we could probably have 20,000 people being mentored. We estimate that we've got about 850 people being mentored at the moment. If they were paying their mentor, let's say, 1,000 rand an hour for 20 hours a year, that'd be about 15 million rand of free mentorship that they're not paying for. That's incredible. And our cost base is 3 million. at the moment, excluding me.
Excluding you.
Debate.
Having taken care of the CEO.
Yeah, exactly. And not having taken care of it. So there is, mentorship, although I say it's a natural thing, everybody does it. It equally, guys get distracted, things change, people don't meet. We don't tolerate that. We are in continual contact. So if you're going to make the program really work, you do need to know that somebody is going to call you and say that you're not meeting. So times 100, fundamentally it's about, I think it really is about having the funding to be able to do justice to it. We need a call center, which would then be able to connect with people. And for that, then you do need, as Mpini was saying, you need like BLSA or USA or somebody really behind you with a government, with a presidential endorsement, and really to make it work. But I'm very hopeful, like all overnight successes. It will happen in the next few years. 10 years later. There's too many good things happening. There are too many organizations who are out there. And picking up on your final point about how do you spread it, mentorship does spread. If you've been mentored, I feel a little bit of, next time somebody comes to you, I've got the skill, I've got the mindset. Let me help this guy then helps that person, and that person.
You also become a much better human with people around you. So whether friends, family, your contribution, without really, it being along mentorship lines, just normal relations. You just become a better contributor to your own relationships. So that in its own is mentorship spreading. So
and two components to that is, number one is the listening. So we're a strong proponent of, I don't know if you, Nancy Klein, Time to Think. Famous book. So many people listen to respond. I'm waiting for you to finish, I can put my point in. Very few people listen to absorb and allow you to think further. Ask you again, so why are you thinking that? Why are you thinking that? So listening is vital. And the other thing is that model, that care and growth model. I'm here for you, not here for me. It's not about what I'm going to get out of that. And those two components can fundamentally change relationships. Because you can't stand out against somebody who's continually there for you, listening to you, giving. You just can't.
It's not possible.
It's not possible. So I think having, if you do mentor, as you say, it certainly changes the environment around you, changes your own attitude about what's important, and then those people's attitude to others, including your daughter.
That one. Yeah, she's mentoring me into her own world. I'm just not listening to. I'm listening to respond. When she comes and says, "Daddy, I'm already ready for an answer." Like, no. And those things tend to happen, man.
Will you be doing this in the next 5-10 years?
I turn 70 next year.
Jeez.
So I don't think my wife would allow me to do that. Which is one of the reasons we need to grow and we need to get the capacity to bring on board a CEO. But the way the momentum is coming, the recognition which is beginning to happen, this is a big deal award, the CSI Awards. We also finalists in the Africa Ecosystems Startup Ecosystem Builders Awards. We were nominated by our client, the Department of Tourism, for a presidential award this year. Didn't make the finals, but so gradually, as I say, these things happen slowly and then they snowball. So I'm very confident when we are getting called. Commensa called us and asked us to join them, coaching and mentoring South Africa. The ICF, the International Coach Federation, contacted us. MultiChoice contacted us last week.
So recognition in the right place.
So slowly, and those awards, frankly, they're helpful because now you get exposed. The CSI Awards is run by the CSR News for all the CSI people in the country. So all the top companies, CSI initiatives, they are subscribing to this. And some of the top CSI heads were the adjudication panel, which got us to the finals. People like Investec, people like ABSA. So when you get that sort of recognition, they say you guys are clearly validation. It just makes it a lot easier. So, like all I say, overnight success takes a hell of a long time and a lot of work. But once
Makes you want to screenshot and send it to the wife. It's like, you see, it's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Trust you to make it happen.
Dave, man, thank you so much for making the time today.
Yeah.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you with us. I have taken so much, and I'll definitely be joining, NMM.
Yeah.
And I really feel that it's a program or a concept that needs to find place in every person who wants to grow or see themselves somewhere. So thank you so much.
Sorry, I was distracted.
Yeah.
So the Sunland program, which I mentioned, and I didn't complete that thought.
Sure.
So the program consisted of running an internal mentorship program, executives to some and mentoring people within the organization. So looking up is where I'm going. But the second component was these mentees had to mentor on a program outside through another NGO called Activate, and they have a bunch of entrepreneurs. And when we did the debrief at the end of the session, the most impact on these guys wasn't this one.
Isn't this true?
It's this one. That's where they had learned the most, by being mentors, by being a mentor to entrepreneurs outside the organization. It changed their whole mindset, understanding what's happening in South Africa, the understanding of business, etc. And I think all corporates see that as a model. Run a professional internal mentorship program with the mentees mentoring outside into the community. That just covers all bases.
All bases, true.
Wow.
So, unfortunately, we're not continuing with Sanlam on that one.
But it's a great model. It's
an incredible model.
Yeah,
so that's one we need to make happen. But thank you very much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure as well. And
thank you, man.
So, as far as people wanting to reach out to you, where can they be able to find you and the mentorship movement?
Okay, our website is www.mentorshipmovement.co.za. My address, dave.wilson@mentorshipmovement.co.za.
Yeah, okay, cool. Right, guys, you know what? Funny enough, this is our last episode for season 1. So imagine the journey of discovering all these entrepreneurs, asking them who is mentoring them, who's giving them the inspiration, right? To end it off with a person that is saying we have a program that provides support for these kind of individuals. You see that now we are at that point, that full circle, to say there is a room for entrepreneurs to express themselves and mold themselves into greater leaders that they are inspiring to be, you know. And it's not the end of the show, but we're just taking a break, you know, see the families, you know, go into hibernation, you know. But we will have 2 or 3 episodes there for social. But yeah, man, thank you guys so much for carrying us through season 1. And we've had great fun with you guys, and more people, great guests are coming on season 2 already booked. So yeah, look out for that, guys.
Thank you, guys. As Nick has said, man, it's just been such a great journey doing season 1 with you guys. We've had seasoned, business people with us. We've had aspirant business people with us. We've had conversations that have taken us to places we never thought we could be, So that's what you guys have driven us to create for you. And do keep connecting with us on our social media platforms. We are at Cooler Biz on all social media platforms. You call it Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. We are just there. You'll find us everywhere. And we will see you in season 2, which will promise us to be a banger.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Yeah, so yeah, I look up.
Yeah, guys. Thank you, man, and goodbye. Thank you.
So you say you are going away for 2 months?